Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're jumping straight into the century-long survival story, the absolutely hilarious marketing stunts, and, believe it or not, the surprising philosophical weight of a simple box of movie theater candy. Yep, we're talking about Mike and Ike. And honestly, this is so much more than just a quick sugar rush. It's practically a masterclass in branding and sheer longevity. Let's get into it.
So let's kick things off with a massive century-old mystery that hooks you right from the start. Who actually are Mike and Ike? Well, nobody knows. Not even the parent company, Just Born, has ever officially confirmed who the namesakes of this iconic candy actually are. Think about that for a second. For a brand that's been sitting on store shelves for nearly 100 years, the fact that their origin story is just a total blank slate, that's almost completely unheard of in modern business.
And you know what's really brilliant? The brand totally leans into this mystery. They just let fans debate the three big theories. Like, were they named after a famous 1930s vaudeville circus duo? Or maybe it was a nod to the company creator, founder Sam Bourne's son and his friend. Or, and this is theory number 3, was it just a genius stroke of marketing, slapping two friendly, classic American names right on the box? The company has actively chosen not to solve this because they realize the mystery itself is a fantastic way to keep people engaged.
Moving on to Section 2, Surviving a Century, from Brooklyn to the big screen.
All right, so to really understand how these little fruity chews became an absolute empire, we've got to trace their timeline. It all kicks off in 1923 when Russian immigrant Sam Bourne started Just Born in Brooklyn. He actually famously invented the Bourne sucker machine, which is the machine that puts the sticks into lollipops. Fast forward to 1932, and Mike and Ike debuts as a penny candy. Now here is the absolute crucial point for this era. The World War II sugar rationing in the 1940s actually saved the brand. Because they relied on fruit flavors instead of heavily rationed chocolate, they didn't just survive, they thrived. They completely conquered the cinema aisles as this cheap, shareable box of candy. Eventually, in 1953, they moved their headquarters over to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
And what exactly were they selling to build this empire? A perfectly simple, chewy, shell-free fruit candy. They basically have a jelly bean-like texture, but they're larger, and they don't have that hard outer shell. Plus, they're vegan, gluten-free, and kosher. It was exactly this kind of simplicity, this wild accessibility, that helped them outlast 100 years of crazy economic shifts and changing consumer tastes.
Next up, we've got Section 3, Flavors, Feuds, and Stunts, expanding the candy aisle. So, moving past those classic origins, Just Born started to really aggressively expand their catalog, and they methodically color-coded these expansions over the decades. You've got the classic green box, which locked in the original fruits back in the 1960s. But look at 1998 with that purple Zauer's box. They were pushing sour flavors way before the massive sour candy craze took over the whole industry. They used these calculated, perfectly timed flavor drops, everything from Tropical Typhoon to the massive 10-flavor Megamix, just to constantly refresh their shelf presence.
But you know, just releasing new flavors wasn't quite enough. They needed a spectacle. So in 2012, the company pulled off this incredibly dramatic, almost celebrity gossip-level PR stunt. They ran a massive ad campaign announcing, quote, Mike and Ike split up. They actually went as far as literally scratching Ike's name completely off the physical packaging. It was absolutely brilliant. It generated huge PR and got literally everyone talking about a candy that had already been around for 80 years.
And then, of course, they miraculously got back together a year later in 2013. The brand rode this huge wave of PR directly into the launch of their newly reunited box, which they dropped right alongside a brand new Italian Ice flavor profile. I mean, it just shows a profound understanding of narrative marketing. They took a totally static product and turned its mascots into a daytime soap opera just to drive massive sales.
So how does all of this build into their modern strategy? Well, in 2020, their primary domain, movie theaters, basically died overnight due to COVID closures. But they seamlessly sidestepped the crash. They pivoted aggressively straight into grocery stores and Amazon with these massive share-size bags. And they locked down that grocery dominance with permanent Megamix editions and even spicy hot tamales collaborations. Looking ahead, they're leaning heavily into retro nostalgia for their upcoming 100th anniversary. They are teasing classic collector boxes and even a massive mystery flavor voting campaign for 2027.
Which brings us right to our next section, Behind the Sugar Curtain, the Just Born Empire.
While Mike and Ike feels like this standalone titan of the candy aisle, it's actually just one piece of an incredibly powerful fourth-generation family-run sugar empire. See, the Bourne family operates completely without shareholders. Because they are privately owned, there is no corporate board of directors forcing them into, digital-only initiatives. They just get to focus purely on producing this entire lineup of nostalgic heavy hitters: Mike and Ike's, Peeps, Hot Tamales, and Goldenberg's Peanut Chews. And to give you a real sense of scale for this operation, their Bethlehem, Pennsylvania factory produces a staggering 200 million boxes of Mike and Ike's every single year. Let that sink in. That is a truly massive logistical footprint for a product that hasn't really fundamentally changed its core identity in nearly a century. Oh, and alongside those 200 million boxes, they are also churning out 1 billion Peeps annually. 1 billion. The scale is so incredibly massive that it literally bathes the entire town of Bethlehem in the smell of warm sugar.
All right, now for our final section, the ultimate tangible asset, a box of sugar versus modern tech.
Okay, here is where this explainer takes a really fascinating turn into modern sociology. We're going to compare this century-old candy to the digital age we live in right now. Think about modern tech companies, like Sony with the PS5. They sell you these revocable digital licenses that require network logins, they're locked down by digital rights management, and they can literally be removed from your account at any time. But a box of Mike and Ike's, that represents absolute peak physical ownership. There is no subscription. It's yours to share, it's yours to resell, or, as we kind of have to laugh about, it's yours to just leave in your car to melt.
The absolutely crucial point here is that Just Born cannot patch your lemon flavor to taste different after you've bought it. This little box of candy is one of the very last things in the world you own completely outright. It is entirely immune to the whims of a software update or some random server shutdown. Once you hand over your cash, the transaction is beautifully, permanently complete.
There's a really compelling, somewhat hilarious observation to make here. In a modern world where the trend is that you own nothing and rent everything, buying a box of candy gives you this defiantly tangible asset that belongs exclusively to you. It's like, just as mid-century political initiatives aim to give people a tangible stake in society through housing, Just Born is giving people a tangible stake through 25-cent boxes of sugar. Super PACs cannot lobby to delist your cherry Mike and Ike. It exists physically right there in your hands.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, looking back at 100 years of survival, absolutely brilliant marketing, and the ultimate peak of physical ownership, I've got to ask you, where do your flavor loyalties lie? Do you still rock with the original fruits, or are you a die-hard 1998 Zoras fanatic? And honestly, most importantly, after a century of complete silence, do you really want Just Born to eventually reveal who Mike and Ike actually were? Or is the mystery itself the sweetest part of the whole brand?